to Flat Earth Debate, Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a Ko-Fi, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Speaking of Patreons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So, a massive shout of thanks and appreciation to Cannabear, Gary Hughes, Measured Flat, Chris Wouters, Mr. Amish, Sensual Goat, Mitch Kennedy, Rod, The Name's Burley, Todd Wazzle, Jason Hornsby, Flat Earth Travolta, J Miles 24, Unimento, M, Iron 26, Endless, Scholar McKinnon, Retro Bill, Level Plain Poem, Michael Kahn, John Kays, Patrick Gunnels, Banter, Mel B. Styles, Hairy Blade, Mobile Max 777, Rob W. Dell, West Watson, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, Abraham Mohammed, Skeptic 936, Life is Short, Texas Mike, David Wayne Foster, and Dank. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now I will hand over to whoever is in Discord and Google so you can enjoy their dulcet tones while I set up for today's live show.
Nope.
Hey Nathan, can you hear us?
Yes.
There we go. Now you just
There we
unmuted. There we go, guys. You were muted the whole time.
Yeah, we lost you the whole time.
Yeah, I had
Nah,
to
Nathan was
rejoin
muted. I don't
in
know, was
order.
it by accident or what?
All good.
All good.
So what's this silence for?
Exactly. If we're all good, what the hell is this?
Should keep chatting.
Okay,
Oh,
yeah.
I thought you were
but
still
the
playing
way-
video.
Get back to the topic. I don't know if you guys in Discord heard, but from the way I'm seeing this and the way these people are questioning Mark right now, they're putting all of the information he's putting forward at this moment within their heliocentric paradigm and saying, well, I see why you can understand this, but what about this? Right? So they're being the big fish, he's being the little fish. It may be a baiting tactic, you know, he might be a fisherman on the other end of that lure. But to me, at the moment, it looks like a fish, you know, they're consuming his worldview with their own. But we're one step past that because our worldview encompasses theirs as well. So, like, we all not only believe that it's flat, we know it's not a globe, and we know how it is measured to be flat. It's like 3 steps along that, and we're tier above astrophysicists at this point.
I kind of followed along. I'm concentrating on other things this second, but consuming his worldview with theirs, I don't really follow that bit.
Right. When they asked him about the planets and Mark give them an answer, what did you already presuppose to have the idea of planets?
Measured horizontal
was
planes of
necessary
reference to give you the ephemeris and the measurements, and then Kepler's derived orbital motions with respect to an R value transposed out of Polaris measurements off a flat plane to give you latitude and give you R at the equator.
Right. The belief that it's spherical, the celestial sphere, the belief that existence is spherical, for this to be a planet, as the definition of that word would mean. So they're putting all the information that Mark's saying through the filter of their paradigm so that they can give an answer for it later.
Yeah, that's why I think it'd be ideal if Mark repositioned it so that when they do that, their attempted leading him back into their paradigm by asking him about orbits is immediately met with, well, obviously those orbits are with respect to the horizontal plane of reference measured to Polaris to derive the R value in the Keplerian motion of orbits. But that's all, you know, flat Earth prerequisite, because he's already pointed it out right at the start. But that kind of leans back on my idea that you should open with this, whereas Mark, I'm suggesting, works backwards with them. I don't know. Either way, there needs to be a point where you lead them back to, if your globe worldview works, then wonderful. That proves how well the flat Earth measurements that made your inference that this globe works actually work.
Yeah, but the thing is, are you being a little fish or are you being a lure at this moment? Because they both look the same to fish, right? Just looks like food. So are you being a lure and you're actually the fisherman above the water level that's a horizontal plane of reference to drive all the claims that will come after? Or are you the little fish who just believes swimming along
You've expanded the
that they're
analogy.
getting ready to consume?
We went in full circle there because I still don't understand your analogy. Is Marx the lure for the fish, or is he the fisherman, or is he actually the fish? I don't understand this analogy at all.
Right. What I'm saying is, at this moment, they see him as just food, basically, because they can fit the understanding of his worldview within theirs. At this moment, how he could believe the earth is flat, right? But they understand that and can explain past that these orbits and planets that they're assuming. So that's why they're asking him that question. And we're one step, and FED at this moment are one step past that and can explain how those concept of orbits require Earth to be a flat plane. That's what I mean.
Okay. I think I followed along.
I'm questioning why, if they went to the Bible, why they're even going there. The Bible doesn't say anything about that. It says he created the sun, the moon, the stars, and put them all inside the firmament. So where are you getting these orbits from? Where are you getting these planets from?
Well, like Nathan said, from a flat plane, but they don't know that, I don't think. It's right now, what I'm saying is it's an argument between I believe this and I believe this, right? And they're arguing about what it's not, I guess is the better way to say it. So they're staying within belief.
I get what you're saying, but they just took it to the scriptures. So, if you're going to take it to the scriptures, what do the scriptures say?
Yeah, but that's the wrong place to go with it. I'm sorry, because that's a belief.
I agree. But my point is they took it there. So, where in there does it show the heliocentric model?
I mean, you saw what Mark Sargent did with Joshua, and how the guy just said, "Oh well, it's just a description of the phenomena that they observed," and that was enough to undo Mark in that argument and move on to Tower of Babel.
Which I don't get the Tower of Babel. I don't understand what he was talking about. Which makes it crap.
I just think all of them are weak. I said this in the show. I mean, currently no one is disagreeing with us when we point these stuff out with regards to how Earth is measured. There's nobody trying to sharpen our arguments from the flat Earth side because they don't get it yet or whatever. That's not happening anymore, is it? Not in the last week.
The flat earthers are. The flat earthers are kind of arguing with that still. But the ballers already accept that. They know it's flat or measured flat, but they believe it's something else. The flat earthers, it seems, don't know how it's measured, but they believe it's flat. You see what I'm saying about the fish example now?
It's kind of getting there. My understanding, not your example.
Yeah, when you're talking about belief, right, that is to accept without evidence. And as far as heliocentrism goes, it is based on evidence. It's just not evidence that Earth is a sphere. So if you're just saying, well, I believe it's flat, well, they got one step on you because they have measurement. But it turns out we got one step on them because we know what those measurements are and what it requires. So it's like the fish analogy. There's always a bigger fish, but we're being the biggest over the astrophysicists who are, which is kind of funny.
It is terrible. I would, as much as I mocked it in that live critique, it's a disgrace for the person that's coming to that person, that astrophysicist, to affirm their bias. You want him to, as I said in the live stream, you want him to slap down a globe proof that's just so unambiguous. And what you get is, oh, well, everybody at NASA would have to be lying. You're like, what? This is what you've got for me? That's how I'd feel if I was a globie going to him. I mean, I know that empty feeling from going to the source, right? When I was subscribed, still am, to NASA. Science at NASA used to leave me with this horrible empty feeling. And I wasn't even questioning it at the time. So imagine how you feel when you go to this guy and that's what you get.
Yeah, that's depressing, but what they want is for us to say we don't know what the Earth is. They're arguing for ignorance so that their globe can remain intact within their mind, because we can't give them that model to replace it. That's how they're thinking, or how it seems the argument is played out until recently. But we're
Right.
kind of undermining that when we talk about the origins and what's necessitated within the model that they believe is a globe.
With that in mind, what did you think of my suggestion in terms of how Mark could manipulate this into, or weasel this in, or however you want to phrase it, into the discussion? That is to say, oh, would you like to know how, how an advanced understanding of a globe would work in terms of its measurements in the first place? Do you think that would be a good tact?
Yes, because then you're not just being a little fish, you're being a lure, and you're actually the fisherman up top that's going to catch them. If you want to play the soft landing, all right, fine. But you need that landing, right? If you're going to bait them with information, you need to make sure that they're not just going to, consume that information.
Right. Like they did when I got you. So in the case of the example with the fish and the lure example in tow, you've got them gobbling up the information but then crapping it out as a globe.
Yes, exactly. They're
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's fine what he's doing. He just needs the hook part of it, where he catches them out on what, and then all of a sudden everything's flipped for them, and they're out of the water and they're on his plate and he's eating them.
Right. Right. Yeah, exactly. That's where we want him to be putting people 10 years on from the subject coming up.
Yeah, this is what I was saying last week. He could still have his way, but just refine these arguments we got. Then you're even stronger.
Right. Yeah. Let him, even I could see introducing the Antarctica argument about a 24-hour sun, right? Just so that they can feel confident to attack that, right? And then say, so tell me how these elevation angles that require a flat Earth and how the sun stays at an elevation angle above the horizon for 24 hours proves it's a sphere when you need a flat Earth to measure that.
Oh, that's beautiful.
But
That's
where are you
beautiful.
going to go? You know, like let them, if they want to hop down the bunny trail of crazy, you know, you need to be able to, if you're wanting to snatch them off of that, then why not be able to bring them back to reality quick?
Right, I'm going to set up a live stream.
Well, it's the same.
Sorry, is Adam about and Neil? I'm just hoping the chit chat will not go dry if I start pressing buttons.
Yeah, me and John are talking.
Yeah.
I think that's
Well,
beautiful, John.
right. Well, like with eclipses, Neil, had your son brought up, well, you can't explain eclipses before to you.
He's actually been pretty silent since the last encounter. Pretty silent.
Right. Well, the eclipses argument that they put forward, right? How do they get their angles to assume that the sun's rays has put the Earth in position to be blocking its light to the moon? You need a geometrical relationship to assert that the Earth is blocking the sun. So those angles are taken from the celestial sphere model, right? That's where their 0 point is. That is what, just like you're sitting talking into whatever, a phone or looking at the TV. That's your 0 point. No, their immediate starting point is that celestial sphere. So they're saying the sun is below my feet at this angle, with respect to the flat plane, but they leave that part out, right? So, and it would have to be in the way of the moon to get this, what I'm assuming is a shadow now. So yeah, they're, as crazy as it sounds, their argument against a flat Earth required Earth to be a flat plane to make it.
Yeah, it's like they're arguing
That
against
is-
themselves.
Yes, well, they are, because they're arguing in that model. They think that model's reality. And that model has a flat plane on it. So when they argue with a flat earther, they're not arguing with what they experience. They're arguing with that celestial sphere, not you. You know what I mean?
Yes. That's what I told my son the other day. But he doesn't like it. He said you can't have a half a sphere. Okay, that don't make any sense. You can't have a half a sphere. I said, okay, dome. Celestial dome.
Right.
Does not matter.
Right.
They're all derived from flat Earth.
Right.
You're arguing against yourself.
That's exactly it. He's arguing against himself. That dome, celestial sphere, that you can't have half a sphere. I never said it was a sphere to begin with, or half a sphere. What are you talking about? Well, he's talking about that model. He thinks that's existence. That model
Correct.
is where he lives. The fact that it requires a flat plane is what he is arguing with. They've never been arguing with us. They've been arguing with their own cognition. That's why they put all, the pizza pie in the sky vacuum, because mathematically, that's what they're claiming. If they're going to stick to, the rigorous definitions that they're using within the mathematics, they have to be claiming a pizza pie in a sky vacuum, not a globe. It's disconcerting.
Nonsensical.
Yeah, it's extremely nonsensical. It'd be like, I believe in unicorns, and if you tell me that unicorns aren't real, right, I immediately assume that horses are unicorns, and you're denying the existence of horses. But now that I've relabeled them unicorns, then you have to argue with You have to argue with that, not me. Prove it, you know. No, you have to believe that horses are not unicorns. It had now we can argue about it because we're in a belief context to have this discussion to begin with, and it's just wrong. There's so much wrong with that.
I agree. Hey, listen, when you get a chance, listen to that Terence Howard. You'll have a field day with it, John. The first part, he's talking nonsense about how his first memory is in his mother's womb. But when you get past all of that, like around 10 minutes on, oh my goodness, the things he talks about. I'm telling you, it's because of what we say here. They're sending them out. They're sending them out in droves now.
Can you give an example of what he said being related to what we say here?
There are no,
Just one.
there are no
Just
straight
one.
lines in nature. There are lines in nature. There's natural curves.
Sorry to interrupt.
And so Joel Rogan said,
Is Adam about? I'm going to go live shortly and just wanted to check if he was around to chit chat to make it interesting. Not that I'm saying you're boring. I'm just haven't spoken to him yet. He's been here the whole time.
I haven't heard him open his mic yet.
Okay. Well, I'm going to get a coffee, like I say. I'll be back in a minute.
Yeah, so Johnny was saying that everything is curved by nature. Right? Nature. And so Rogan says, but why would they do that? And instead of he was comparing it to the periodic table, like he's got his own periodic table now. And the way he was explaining it, he said, well, they had to do that. They had to take everything curved and make it because 6,000 years ago, they thought the earth was flat. And then Joe Rogan says they thought the earth was flat. Like he was stunned by it. He knows he's talked about this topic. He was taken aback by the topic. It was a bad acting job. Then he goes on into the ether nonsense of how Einstein was hiding the ether. He even says he sent the paper to Neil deGrasse Tyson that he wanted to go over some stuff. And Neil deGrasse was pretty hard on him. Yeah, it's some stuff we talk about here that...
The ether. How was he hiding the ether when he explicitly said that the space and time requires the existence of a non-physical medium? Right?
Not hiding, he left out
that.
the ether.
He mentioned it specifically when he says space-time. He just renamed it. He didn't change it. He just renamed it. He calls it space-time. That's the same thing as ether. What the frick is that dude talking about?
Agreed. But if you got a little time, listen to that.
You know, I'm starting to see so many correlations when I look at this topic, right? Like resolution loss at the horizon and obstruction at the horizon. There's so many hijackings that take place within this topic. It is insane. Like, just go back to the ether and how it relates to what we're talking about earlier. The solar system model of the particle of the atom. Where hold on, I gotta go. I ain't gotta go. My buddy. Hold on.
Gotcha. I'm here. Well, anybody else around?
Nope.
Who's in Discord?
Nobody.
Of course, yeah, right.
Yeah, Nathan was kind of hoping we could keep the show going. I'm sorry, the little one went crazy. He's seen a truck outside.
That'll do it.
Yeah,
That's
Adam
so
must be
unlike
really
the little
busy.
child.
What's that? Was that Adam?
I don't believe so, no. I'm
We're
sorry,
having a
gentlemen
hard
in
time
Discord.
understanding you.
Yeah, we're having a hard time hearing you.
It's funny how he says that everything is like naturally curved, but like he's not looking at the horizon, right?
First thing I said. First thing I said. So you mean to tell me the horizon we see in nature is not in nature? Okay.
Well, it's kind of what our position is, isn't it? That the horizon isn't a tangible thing, that it kind of is created because of diffraction and other things. Like, I mean, we don't have to make that claim, but it's just information we've come across in this topic, right?
Yeah, but we do see it, right? We do see it, and it does form a naturally straight line, doesn't it? So how can a guy come across and say there are no straight lines in nature?
It's either ignorance or an agenda. That guy's crazy though. He says a bunch of weird stuff. I've seen some clips of him just going off the rails. You know, that memory in the womb thing is new to me though.
Yeah. Weird, right? But
What
I tell you what, you
Yes,
see where
man.
Whitsitt gets all. You listen, you see where Whitsitt gets a lot of his stuff from. I said, oh boy, he sounds exactly like Whitsitt. He throws the background in there. It has to be a medium. He also brings up photons. And he's claiming everybody got it all wrong. Electric universe.
Right. But the thing is, the concept of the wave that they're going to discuss is, it requires a photon to describe it, because you're talking about discrete points on a photographic plate, that you're going to take those discrete points and plot them over time, which is a space between dots, over time, space time, to describe it. So it's got to be, there has to be discrete points to describe it. And I don't know. It's the same thing with people who believe they live on a globe. They measure it flat, but don't believe it.
Dude, why'd they come up with the idea of waves in the first place?
As far as I can tell, wasn't it a convention to explain diffraction? I could be wrong, though. Do you know?
Yeah. So they observed the pattern that happens in a box when you have the slits, right? And then the other guy made a quote unquote model of it that would explain the intersection points, right? And what he used was water. He took little points or balls and he pressed them into water, which creates ripples. And then if you keep adding points, it creates more ripples and they intersect each other. And then you have constructive and destructive interference with the waves, right? And if you look at the way the water acts, you get the same overlaying pattern. And because he had that descriptive model, which could be graphically represented, he presented it to the people who were researching it, and he pretty much convinced all of them that light as a wave was because that some dudes that were messing around with light observed some patterns when they made different holes in a box on the coattails of what's known as camera obscura. So camera obscura is you have this massive box and you put a hole in it, right? That limits the available propagation angles of light that can enter through the hole, and it eliminates all the other light, and it allows you to just have that light focused on the other side. Now, some artists used to do this to draw pictures, so they would set up their huge ass box, right? Sit in it, and then wait a while, and they'd be able to see the image of the outside world. Interestingly enough, it'd be flipped upside down. Now, eventually somebody made smaller ones, and then they put dots in it, and they saw the light patterns, and eventually they got this unique pattern when they had two slits in the box, and they're like, "Whoa, man, what's this pattern? This is weird." And they tried, they try to figure it out and come up with ideas why it's happening. One of the guys, right, noticed that there was a similarity between the pattern, right, and the idea of what waves do in water. So he created this idea: I'm going to take water and I'm going to put little objects in the water and tap the water, and it'll create a ripple. And then if I go over here, a little further to the left, and I tap the water, it'll create another ripple. Now, when I see the ripples meet each other, they have constructive or destructive interference. In other words, the amplitude of the ripple increases, decreases, or nullifies. So if you have inverse waves, they nullify and create a dead zone in the water. Now, because he created this graphical description that could be seen with your own two eyes, that seemed to explain in a graphical manner, at least from the cursory view, a similar pattern that they saw with the light, the majority of the people that were involved in this venture were convinced by him through that graphical representation, using the water as his analog, that light is most certainly a wave. So you might say, well, that's reifying. Maybe that is. But either way, the moral of that story is that he created a demonstration, right, of an explanation that was taken as fact, as that's the way it's actually happened. Now, interestingly enough, it didn't end there. Other homeboys came along and did other quote-unquote demonstrations and said, oh, wait a minute. Yeah, your little thing explains this, but what about this other thing, which is explained best by a particle, right? And so a lot of guys, they have two explanations for the light phenomenon, and they say one side says it's particle, one side says it's wave. What if it's both? And hence, now they came up with all that and basically believed it, and that's why we arrived at rap today.
Thanks.
So that was after or before matrix mechanics, like the Niels Bohr quantum mechanics idea. Was that before that, or do you know?
That's like way back. I think that might have even been in. Dang, I'll have to double check now. But my memory is telling me like
You're breaking up.
I don't know why, but I'm thinking of like Queen's England.
Yeah, your mic's a train wreck. It's gone all bad. AI. It was good. We got the majority of, we got all of what you said on ripples, but yeah.
I think it's an interesting topic because Newton postulated it as a particle. Then, like, I think what AI is saying is these guys come along with their stuff, and then you have quantum mechanics showing, and like they've all assumed that it's a discrete point to describe their patterns with, or their mathematical equations with. But it's just interesting, the progression. Kind of that
Should we
little
put
fish analogy from earlier. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm just going to say, should we put an APB out on Brian?
It's kind of odd for him not to show up. I hope he's okay.
He's made 2 videos. It's very strenuous. Needs a little rest.
Yeah, but I thought he came here to kind of relax, like.
Yeah, like why is he not on the show anymore? APB out for that. Like, what's going on? He's not here no more.
Oh, you mean if Brian was here, he'd be waffling on indefinitely and you could go and get a cup of tea and things like that?
No, it's just another very important panel member. That's all I'm saying. That we haven't heard from in over, this is going on week 2.
Is it?
Is this week 2? When was the last time he was on?
Good job I don't have a register,
I
eh?
thought he was on
Guys, I
last
got I
week.
solved the problem. I'm going to go to his vacation spot and I'm going to extradite him back to his computer so he can be on the show. How about that?
It seems only reasonable, as he's completely obliged to be here, after all.
He
Well,
is to Neil.
well, when
So, the
let me not say it because
story about the
You Mike's just a train wreck. The last show that it was like this, it just destroyed the whole show.
Yeah, that information he gave about the wave belief, that was good stuff, you know. I hate that couldn't get more out of because it was interesting.
Well, I sent Brian a video. And I said, Brian, please watch this. I think it'll be good. The response I got back was, why? What's the point? Now, I'm paraphrasing, but I think I got the whole gist of it. I said, well, I just think it's something you could really take apart. I think he was put there. I mean, he says things that are being said specifically on Flat Earth Debate. And Brian said, what's the point? He'll just get Earth is measured flat without laying out the process. So, to me, that sounds, not favorable.
Despondent. That's the word you're looking for.
What?
The word you're looking for
I
is
see. Hold on.
despondent.
Yeah, but not favorable, and not favorable in our way. I think it's a little. Well, he's phrased that he's not happy with the measured flat, so it's not nothing that I'm sharing that he sent with me privately. I just think it's weird.
Well,
Brian's on
just
another
to-
level, Neil.
just to-
Neil. Brian's on another level, right? In terms of what he's doing and what he's researching, he's getting into a level that is beyond you and I. It's not beyond John, far from it. But he's into it, and it's advanced stuff, and he understands it and can dilute it down. But the moment we see an opportunity in what he's diluted down after an extensive amount of research and understanding, and then comprehension, so he's going through it in his own mind, mulling it over so he can phrase it into a video, putting it into a video. It's a long process. We come along, and what he's detecting, and I know, is he knows all me and John are waiting to do is go, you don't need a flat earth for that. There's a horizontal plane of reference. You'll need the height to be off a flat plane. And he's getting sick of it. He's like, I just want to get to the end of my explanation for how this conversion process to globe works. And all you're doing is picking every opportunity to point out how flat Earth's measured, because it's our new hot shit, basically, isn't it, Neil? Now, he's getting tired of it because it's hampering him when he's trying to put this information out in the public. If every second he's got us interrupting it to point out how flat Earth's being used in the example. Do you know what I mean? So I totally relate. It doesn't mean I'm going to stop doing it. Sorry. That's just that. It's so when I can empathise and I can relate and I can explain back to him his frustration. But it's like, will I stop doing that though? Eventually, but probably not in 2024, to much to his frustration, right?
Now that I read it back, it's even more. I don't care. He's just another person who hasn't found us yet. Laugh out loud. But at the moment, I don't think he should, as all he will hear is Earth's measured flat, followed by no process of measurement. I like that he said, find us, so he's still one of us. But, yeah.
When we say it's measured flat, we're pointing to the process that they just used. What? No, like when we say it's measured, you'll need a flat Earth for that. Their concept of it requires a flat Earth. And I can describe it that way. Now, when I say Earth is measured flat, I can point to every way in which you measure Earth, whether it be the topology with respect to how flat it is, or the celestial sphere and navigation with respect to how flat it is. It's the thing is, and what Brian I think is frustrated by, and what he calls chanting, is the amount of times that the ballers steal flat Earth concepts to make their globe Earth claims. It can sound like chanting if you point them out. It
Yes.
can, because they're
yeah, but
doing it that much.
right, but think about it this way. I could just make a track, like literally a bot track of you, Nathan, and let's say one other person, just saying you're going to need a flat Earth for that. And I could just play it periodically over any content, right? And then I'd basically have the same effect, right?
Yeah, you could say that. Thanks. That makes me feel so good.
Well,
No, I'm
not
just
really.
sympathizing with your
It only has the same effect
understanding
when
of
it
Brian's
actually
feelings.
requires
And
a flat
I'm
plane.
actually very impressed by your ability to recognize that, Nathan. And it seems like John can't, so whatever.
No. Oh, come on. You just, whatever. Me recognizing and empathizing with Brian doesn't mean I agree, or it doesn't mean I'll stop either.
Right, but the thing is,
That's good. You don't have to. That's the beauty of being in the first community, is that we all don't have to do the same thing, right?
Right.
Yeah, but we're all here to we're all here to prove that Earth is flat. No, you got a silver bullet. What are you gonna keep it in your holster? Fire that
I don't really
sucker!
think we're doing this before, dude. We talked
when
about this
people were going
before.
around
Sorry,
saying
Neil.
Black Swan,
Neil, Brian is ahead of us.
was
Right.
that a thing?
Sorry, John. Go ahead.
I was just saying, there was a point in time in this community very recently where people would just say Black Swan, that you could make the same argument against and say the Black Swan. What's the point in just saying it if you don't demonstrate it every time, right?
Every time they did that myopic chanting, anybody who was adept at conversation quickly took it away from that, dude. The people that just chant Black Swan in the background were nuisances, bro. They always were.
That reminds
Right.
me of
So the people that chant these things,
For example,
and the people
I'll be in the
that
debate, right?
understand
I'll be in the debate,
are different.
and we'll be making progress, right? And then also have the most buzzwords.
We can't hear
And
you.
buzz phrases.
You're breaking up really
And then
badly.
never explain it to the person that they're being engaged.
We didn't get any of that. Just a garbled, broken up nonsense mess, I'm afraid.
Mic check. Can you hear me?
Yes.
That reminds me of that old joke of drunk flat earther versus a glober. All they have to say is, "You're gonna need an awe for that."
Right, but we moved a step past that in our understandings, because we know that Earth needs to be measured flat for them
Right.
to get an R value. Right?
I don't understand why this is so troubling.
Right. Well, the thing is, if I just said it was measured flat and I didn't give any context to it, describing rise over run being a horizontal plane, or celestial navigation using mean sea level as a horizontal plane to derive angles from, if I didn't do that, then it could sound like chanting. Just like saying Black Swan without being able to describe or state the modus tollens and show a picture could sound like chanting. So the point's valid. I'm not arguing with the point that you need to understand it. But every time that they use a measurement from a flat plane, they have used a measurement from a flat plane.
Yeah, and I don't understand. We are explaining it. I don't understand what he means by Earth measured flat, but not showing the process of measurements.
Because that's what he's
What
doing.
do you mean by that?
I've just explained this. Neil's been doing that for a couple of years, and the concept of Earth being measured flat for globe measurements, it's not foreign to to Brian. He's understood that for ages, and Brian can point to examples where he's literally said it. So for him, this is a bit like, yeah, I'm getting into the advanced nitty gritty of how that's been done, and all you keep doing is pointing out every time they use a flat plane in their explanations, and it's just frustrating for him. I've already explained this to you.
Maybe I'm reading it wrong.
But see, that's the
To
thing
me, it
when you
sounds
go
like
into
you're going over the
explanation,
process.
right? Well, epistemology, right? How you know what you know. If you take a measurement, which that is to take the conceptual unit and apply it to reality. So, what are we doing with this measurement? If you don't understand that, then yeah, you're chanting.
All I'm saying is I think it's explained very well over and over again on here, so I don't see the problem.
The argument I'm running into when using these arguments from here is that they want to argue what a measurement is and whether we're speaking in abstraction and not in reality.
Right. Well, that's the conceptual unit, right? So you could argue an attack just solely basis of reification, right? You could say, oh, you're just reifying that. But that's not a measurement. You know what I mean? Or you could attack it for, well, that's basically the only way to attack it, as far as I've seen.
But you are measuring it.
Yep. Well, we'll get to philosophical issues of what is a measurement.
Really?
Yeah, many here
If it gets to that point, I'm out of
argue
here.
That. It's into that point, Neil, because that's like there's flat earthers arguing against this. This is probably their argument against it.
If it gets to the point where conceptually or philosophically, what do you mean by a measurement? I will literally jump out this window.
Holy crap, Neil. I wouldn't accept that standard for my life, bro.
When the argument gets to what is a measurement, then they're defeated. That's a wrap. They have to divert from what you just said, because when you define what a measurement is, they have to turn it into like this philosophical thing, because by definition it destroys their argument. So that's probably why they try to steer it, the conversation that way, take you down a philosophical path, because they're already defeated in a reality one. It's just weird when they do that.
Yeah, like the guy the other day with Nathan. He would not admit that you cannot measure 90 on a curved surface. It has to be flat. He would not admit it, and he says, I don't feel like I'm defeated. Well, I don't care how you feel. You've been defeated for the last 40 minutes, or however long that went on.
Well, what he kept on hearing Nathan say in his mind was, I can get a straight line to a curve. That's really what he thought he was saying. He's like, yeah, we define curves with straight lines. I can get a straight line to a curve. What are you talking about? He wasn't hearing Nathan at all.
Excellent. So let's parse that out. So when you say defeated, what does that mean? Does that mean he accepted your proposition?
He has to.
Neil, do you think, Neil, that the human condition is such that if they're presented with a material fact, that they must accept it?
This has nothing to do with human condition. He does accept it. He knows it. He's bracing against it and trying to work around it, how we're going to the center of the sphere.
No.
And he's also going to the stars to change the subject to not deal with the pertinent fact that to get a 90-degree angle, you have to get it from a flat baseline, not a curve. This is not a human condition.
Right, so you're psychic. Right, so you're psychic, Neil, right?
This is how we rationalize them. In other words, if we had the past selves debating with past opponents and they said to us, well, of course it's measured flat, but that's just because it's so big, we would then justify the fact that they know it's flat because they're lying shits, paid government shills. Whatever we justify it with makes no difference. In the same way as I put that NASA document up where it shows them measuring altitudes off a flat plane, well, I'm pretty sure that whoever put that together from NASA was quite happy with their work. You know, great. I've accurately described how we use the horizon and 90 degree below a position we're measuring for elevation. It makes perfect sense. They're not saying, I know it's flat. I will deceive them all. No, that's not how it works. But we rationalize our opponents in that way when it gets to the point of cognitive dissonance. And then you say it's not about the human condition. Yeah, it is. Which is why very reason we lean into what Mark does in many instances. Number one, he can get away with it more than most because he's a nice guy and can justify it with rationale when you quiz him, and I have. So he gets away with it more than most because he's a people person and he wants to bring people to the experience through any means, even if it's feast and nonsense. Well, when people brace against what we do, it's different to them maybe opening their mind to the possibility within the heliocentric model first. I don't know. But we are just dealing with people. People are batshit insane, crazy monsters most of the time, Neil.
The very
I'm talking
term
about the
cognitive
guy from the
dissonance.
other day. Hold on, AI, 1 second. I'm specifically talking about the guy you were talking to for 40 minutes. I understand what you're saying
The
with
same
NASA.
guy, dude.
Go on, AI. We can hear you nice and clearly now. Or, well, as clear as you are.
I'm just saying the very term cognitive dissonance exists for this very reason, right?
Yep.
The classical definition psychologically is holding two mutually exclusive truths to be true simultaneously, and the discomfort that it causes, which causes you to not face it, right? So you're purposely blocking it out from your cognition because you don't want to accept, you don't want to realize it, right? So that means tacitly you're not accepting the fact that it's an error. So just because you have to concede it in one side of your life doesn't mean that you accept it generally. So it's literally denying one of those truths because they can't both be true, right?
Right. Why do the peasants tell the children that they don't understand how expensive the emperor's new threads are? No, small child, you just don't understand. He's not naked. You just can't see the clothes. Cognitive dissonance.
So then that's a miracle that I only braced against it for 2 weeks because the information that's out now I didn't have available to me. And I fought through that cognitive dissonance to see that when they're telling me, when I'm looking for globe proof, and they're telling me climb up a tree and things like that, I don't know.
Did you climb a tree?
Deal is humans often make the mistake of assuming that all other humans are as rational and have the same type of faculties that they do, right? And they're frustrated when they can't communicate with the other person on the same terms that they can communicate with their inner thoughts, right? It's like, why don't you understand? I can't understand why you don't understand. Well, no duh, because you can't understand. That's the whole point.
I guess
that's
so.
basically what we've been doing on the show for the past, since the Black Swan, right? Is just figuring out better ways to convey this information to people. That's all we really do here.
Yeah, and we simplify it to the fact that Earth is measured flat, and it's even more of a problem. So I guess the easier it gets, the more problems they're going to have with it. I see how things work.
No, the
Yeah,
easier it
look,
gets.
Neil.
Go on.
As frustrating as this is going to sound, some people don't want a simple answer because they don't understand simple answers. They need a complicated answer that fits their matrix of interpretation from which they've been seeing the world their whole life, right? So if you show up and say, hey, not only am I going to give you a simple answer, but I want you to change the way in which you think about the world so that I can give you the simple answer without any help from me. You think that's going to fly?
No, because even then some people go, no, greater minds than I can see through this seemingly simplistic answer with a complicated answer that I just don't know yet.
The craziest thing
Is
that
that
I've
an
heard
appeal to
is
authority?
now
Yeah.
they say the black swan proves the globe Earth. Like what? Like they are literally, I don't know, some kind of trickery. They're trying to say they're embracing the thing that I guess would put them in a position to where they have to accept that their globe model doesn't exist anymore. But they're embracing that and then saying, well, it proves that it's a globe because you can. That's like, whoa, they're like doing a whole, it's really tricky. You got to be careful with these guys, man.
It's kind of like what that
Right. You turn it
triangles
into the
McKeegan
flat
guy
earthers
does.
claim about the horizon. That's the first step. If you want to reverse it, make it the flat earthers claim about the horizon and them saying this is how it works. This is a horizon on a flat plane. Then all you got to do is show one of them that could comport with the sphere, and Bob's your uncle. You're just disproving the black swan. They're going to have to reverse the, you know what I mean? Change who the positive claimant is.
It's kind of like Triangles McKeegan, how he will explain proof of flat Earth and then just say, "No, that proves the globe."
Yes, they all do it. Remember the guy that was going over celestial navigation and telling them how latitude isn't lines cut through a sphere? It's actually angles drawn out from the center of a sphere. And that's what latitude was. It was angles off of the equatorial plane. But every time he said that, he held up a globe. Every single time he talked about angles from a flat plane, he held up a sphere.
Just like Neil deGrasse saying, holding up a globe saying, "This is flat."
That's funny because my brother brought that up yesterday, and he couldn't understand what I was saying. You just fell into his trap, his little magic trick that he wanted you to fall into. He's just put you back on the ball with him. No, but he was saying, look, it's flat.
That's the trick right there, isn't it? To talk about how not curved we measure it in comparison to how curved it is.
I think an opponent is really defeated when they accepted your premise and they're like, hey, so if it was flat, what would we, and start asking you questions? And a lot of times we just don't take a win.
Well, no, what they're doing there is they're taking it from a fact that you've just proven into a hypothetical. So they'll say, okay, well, we'll get our elevation angle measurements so we can prove a globe with them. But if it was flat, you're like, no, you just required it to be flat and utilized it flat. Now you're asking me in a hypothetical if it was flat.
If gas fills space.
Yeah, that's the same thing. Exactly. Well, if gas fills space, blah, blah. No. Not if law of nature.
Yeah, but they're going to steal the concept that right? Like they're going to steal pressure gradients, right? So they got to hijack pressure. They're going to steal angles, so they're going to have to hijack, those angle measurements. They have to hijack it, but then in the same move, they attack the fact that must exist for this thing to exist. Was it contingent necessity? Is that how you say? Yeah, they attack that, somehow throwing that into doubt, keeping the measurement, which is no, it doesn't work that way.
Yeah, and then you'll have somebody like Mendes say that it is not a law of nature that gas fills space. You made that up.
Well, see, Brenda, when I explained to her, about microstates filling, it fills available microstates, she was happy to agree to that, but she wanted to put a caveat of unless. If it's got an unless on it, is it a natural law?
Yeah, whenever they come across something that's actually going to defeat their position, they're happy to hold things like natural laws as a suspension of disbelief suddenly. It's like, no, no, no. Got to get over this habit of excluding things that are real in favour of your fundy religious belief of Earth being a sphere.
Well, I know what she was wanting to do. She was wanting to get to the point where she could argue that there are inter and intramolecular forces that are holding the container together. Therefore, a force is holding the container together, and that is how we get gas pressure, is by these diametrically opposed forces. That's where she wanted to go with it, but that's not a good description of what's going on, you know.
You think that's where she was taking it? I don't think so. I mean, at base level, she just denied
Yeah.
that there was a law that described gas at all. Gas isn't part of these laws. There isn't such a law.
No, she accepted what I said. She accepted it. She just said, unless there's more to it, but no, that's really all that matters. Unless you're going to talk about the forces that hold the container together, uh, why are you bringing up the unless? You know what I mean?
Right.
It's nonsense. Like I don't know where she was going with it. Getting ready to assert there was a force container around Earth is what she wanted to do.
Yeah, and you had the other guy saying that his understanding was that gas is the container itself, that it collides against itself.
Huh? Did he say that?
Yeah, he said that. The gas is the container. Hey, listen, my tire the other day was reading 26 psi that I needed air. It's really hot today, and now it's reading 30 psi. So, what did the heat cause my tire to inflate more?
Well, yeah, actually.
Yeah.
It's exactly what happened.
Yeah, it heated up them gas molecules, right? And they start expanding more and more. So it doesn't seem like I need air until it gets cold again.
Sure. I mean, but for the fact that they have a sky vacuum positive claim that it's a vacuum, we wouldn't be debating this subject. We don't really have a positive claim in this regard, do we?
No.
Yeah, they do. They're the ones with the positive claim, but the belief in that positive claim, they got it from the celestial sphere model. That's where they say the stars are infinite. book that 10th Man brought said that you have to assume the stars are an infinite distance away. Why? Why do you have to assume that? Why do you even have to assume a height at all when you never do? You know what I mean?
I think that's what the guy was saying the other day too, about like he was stunned, like why they would talk, why you talk about gases when we're talking about flat Earth. I don't think he was putting it together that it's debunking his heliocentric paradigm.
Yeah, you're not going to have hard way to say it. You're not going to talk about outer space if you aren't already either a geocentrist or a heliocentrist that believes they're on a ball. It's when you have to introduce the idea of space.
You know something I was thinking the other day, because it was very troubling as a new Christian, like how could this be if Earth is a globe? Like nothing's making sense. Even something like the rapture, right? Where everybody gets caught up. And I remember they depicted one picture of the rapture on a globe, and you see people going to the left, to the right, down, and up. It don't make sense. Neither does north, south, east, and west make sense. Like I remember trying to fit the ball in, and it just wasn't working.
That's a similar principle to Scientology, with the souls going up out of the globe to Xenu.
Right, exactly.
Does anybody know a Scientologist that actually believes that? Or is that something that they just show on TV to make Scientologists look crazy?
No, that's OT4. A lot of Scientologists wouldn't even know that. You're supposed to be at a certain level before they inform you of that information, and they locked it all down and didn't really want people like South Park letting you know about Xenu. Your average Scientologists have no idea of that story. You have to be a very high level, and being a high level means spending a lot of money in Scientology. So you've got to be very rich to know that stuff. So they weren't at all happy when South Park put it out there.
What if it's
Tom
not true,
Cruise
though?
knows.
What if it's just a propaganda?
Thanks, Neil.
Sorry, I didn't mean to
I'm just
interrupt
saying.
your pet.
No, I'm just saying it's hearsay, right? Because you're only hearing it. Like, has anybody come forward from that church or cult, whatever it is, and stated this is what they believe? Or is it always someone who left it claiming that that's what they believe, which could just be, an attack on them?
Ex Nathan. He's a Scientologist.
I don't think that's ever happened, but Elron does have writings of like stories and fictional stories that are very similar.
But they are labeled fictional, right? He got them published in fiction, so he's not claiming they're real. I'm
Right,
just
but
wondering if
we can
anybody,
probably read between the lines.
you know what I mean?
I agree, but we can probably read between the lines and come to a reasonable conclusion.
You know what's weird? Going to a Roman Catholic school, I was told I should read the book Dianetics. So they were putting Scientology in Catholic school.
But
Well,
like Nathan
Catholics
just
are
said, you'll
weird.
never meet a Scientologist. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Nope, Catholics are weird. That's it.
Go on, you'll never meet a Scientologist, what?
Or I've never seen, I ain't saying they don't exist, but I would like to see a Scientologist still in the church who would assert what people who have left the church say about them. You know what I mean?
Well, Nathan, who's the main guy there? Who's the leader of that now? I forgot his name. I used to know his name.
I'm just saying the attacks they come under, when you think about straw men and the ones we face, how do we know that they're even claiming that? I don't. But from what people who have left the church say, I can say what they say they believe is obviously crap. But is that what they believe? I don't know.
I guess all of that knowledge did kind of come from South Park, so maybe it is a straw man.
It's just kind of weird that there is a church that is being, you're being told by someone else what they believe, not by them. You know what I mean? It's odd.
I mean, I thought ages ago that there'd be a decent link in between us and Scientology because we're opposing heliocentrism, and L. Ron Hubbard's part of that crowd, and heliocentrism's part of Scientology. It's fundamental to it.
Yes, the idea of Galactic Lord Zeno, but is Galactic Lord Zeno tied into Dianetics? I think it talks about evolution in Dianetics, doesn't it? But I don't know about Galactic Lord Zeno. I've never read it.
Yes.
Never mind. Scientology is a bunch of crap. Let's just go with that one. Crazy people.
Xenu would not work on a flat Earth. That's for sure.
My calculation doesn't work. Therefore, your measurement is wrong.
Can you take me through the process of this measurement, please?
Yeah, well, see, you measure an angle with respect to level, which is a horizontal plane. So you measure an angle with respect to a horizontal plane, and then you you say, well, it can't be flat, so let me calculate the height that it is, so I can say when I move or it moves that the height is changed, and I know that can't be true, so I know it's not flat because of that calculation I just did. I know the measurement is not of a flat plane. That's Earth's not flat. That's how I did it. It may sound stupid, but that's what they've been saying to us for 10 years.
Well, but that process you go through of measurement, I don't have a problem.
I didn't hear that. You broke up, Neil.
I said, you took us through the process of measurement. I don't have a problem. Sounds airtight to me.
Well, the thing is that the Globers use the flat Earth so much because they're a materialistic religion, right? So they think that the only thing that the only thing that exists is physical matter, right? So they're going to rely on measurements a lot. They're going to have to, because that's one of the foundational pillars of their religion, and just so happens that their measurements have to be of a flat plane. So they have to mention it a lot, and it can sound like chanting when you point it out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, if they wouldn't use it so much, maybe we wouldn't have to keep saying it. We can't control them. They can't control themselves. They're constantly using a flat plane. And if they're not going to understand it, we have to point it out to them.
Right, but if all you say is you're going to need a flat Earth for that, and you're not explaining or pointing to what was said as requiring a flat plane of reference, or the Earth to be that flat plane of reference, if you're not pointing to that when they do it, if you're just saying you're going to need a flat Earth for that, and they've said something about lasagna, then yeah, there's a legitimate gripe about it sounding like chanting.
But we don't do that.
Right, and that's my argument, is that I'm not chanting. I'm pointing out every time that they have to measure Earth as a flat plane to then go on and argue against their own measurement they just took. Yeah, that was one of the things I wanted to bring up a little bit earlier, is to measure, you
Victory
can look at
Royale!
synonyms to it. Damn Fortnite. But when you look at synonyms for measure, it's like figure out, to know. You're going to find words like that. And you can use them interchangeably in a sentence because of what those words mean. Or to take someone's measure, right, is to know a person or know of a person. Figure it out is to put it in mathematical units and calculate. Figure it out. So they figure out it's flat to know that it's not flat, is how, when they say it's so biggie it's flatty. That sounds so stupid, but that's what they're saying.
And for lasagna, you are going to need a flat earth because you're going to need to have the land and have the rows in straight line on a horizontal plane.
No, in that example, I wasn't talking about the lasagna earthers. I was talking about just the actual food, you know.
Right. I was talking about growing the wheat for the lasagna.
David Miscavige. That's the devil's name.
Yeah, they're trying to track him down to serve him, and they just can't seem to find him to actually serve the papers to him.
Yeah, Tom Cruise is going to be the next guru there.
I don't know about that.
I do. I got an inside
Yeah,
scoop to that.
Well, you're right. He'd be at the higher echelons, knowing about thetans and Xenu. You're right about that.
since he would be at those higher levels, ever said that there is a galactic Lord Xenu or Thetans?
At the lower levels, you're just dealing with self-improvement, and a lot of that's done through them psychoanalyzing you and keeping a close eye on you and getting you to confess your sins. And they've got a version of the lie detector meter as well, like the thing that detects your sweat and things like that. They rig you up to that. Auditing, I think they call it. So that's what you're doing at lower levels.
Yeah.
You're paying into the system to learn and to understand how to better improve yourself within society. And as you move up the ranks, it's only when you get to the really, really high ranks that they start telling you about thetans and volcanoes and things like that.
Right. So Tom Cruise, being one of those higher ranking people, has he ever made any claims that comport with what we're told they believe?
No, because what he wants to do, Tom Cruise, that is introduce people at the lower levels, so they have a staunch enemy in the form of psychologists and psychology, and they brace against that. So if you hear Tom Cruise talking about Scientology, he'll be in opposition to psychotherapy, for example, and he'll be just explaining how vehement he is against that and how Scientology stands against it, and for all the right reasons, and he'll list them all off. So you'll see his passion for that far quicker than you'll see his. It certainly isn't going to be putting out OT4 level information that's, when you acquire the information at a great cost, financial cost, it's made explicitly clear that you've got that because you've attained such a high level within the religion that you are now privy to that information. So it's certainly not something that you're going to get and then go, oh, I'm going to go on the news and start talking about this. It's amazing. It just wouldn't work like that.
Right, but it does kind of sound conspiratorial to say that if you're an OT4 or OT5 of this religion, then you must believe this. I don't know. I just, I would like to hear them.
It's not.
State
It's not. You must believe.
You know what I mean?
It's not must believe. It's privileged to be informed of.
Right. So, has anyone who is privileged to be informed of, who's still in that church, informed anyone else? And if they have not, how do we know?
When you say informed anybody else of what?
The information, you're privileged to be informed of this information.
No, you'd be
Then how do
encouraging
we
that
know
person
we're not
to,
OT4 or 5 in that church?
in a sort of pyramid style, you'd be encouraging that person to, invest in more Scientology research and more courses, so that eventually you might be privileged to understand what I know, but you will never know. That's what you'd be lording it over people if you were privileged to the information, because you're like, now I know something the rest of the lower level Scientologists don't, because I am so rich and I've, been financially privileged enough to know this information now. So you're going to keep it close to your chest, as opposed to nudge the next man next to you and say, did you know the Earth's flat?
So it's a pyramid scheme and not a religion?
If you like.
I didn't think religion worked that way, you know what I mean? Like, that doesn't sound how a religion's supposed to work, but what do I know?
If you ever, Kirstie Alley was on a Big Brother once, and you got to see a Scientologist in terms of how they operate. So she starts getting quizzed about what Scientology is as a religion, and she starts encouraging the person to look into it more and buy a book. Like, the whole religion is based on book sales that all kick back to the top end of Scientology. So they're all going to be making nice wedges off every book that's sold at $50 a throw or $100 a throw for a very low level insight into some version of self-help with Scientology on the cover. And I'll dig out a clip if I could be bothered, but just if you type in Kirstie Alley on Big Brother talking Scientology, and you'll see her giving a sales pitch in a pyramid scheme to some
It's the
random
biggest
stranger.
pyramid scheme ever.
It's just to some random stranger who happens to be asking her about her religion and what it means to be a Scientologist. And what she gets back in return is, you should really be looking into this more yourself and learning and buying a book.
Well, don't you
Right,
remember
but
10th Man gave her? Hold on, don't you remember? I was going to say, don't you remember 10th Man gave that testimony as well when he went to speak to someone in the Scientology, and they told him buy the books, and he bought all the books, and they still went in and talked to them? It's a pyramid scheme at the highest level.
Yeah, okay. And it may be. I'm not trying to say that it's not anything or it is anything. Is the only way that we have any information about this church is from the people that actively hate that church. Basically, that's what I'm being told. Is that the only way we know anything about them is from the people that hate them.
Shout out to Daz Studio 68 for the super chat. Member for 11 months.
It's a spherical scheme.
It is based in heliocentrism, yes. Like I say, the only reason I've got answers to some of these questions is because I've spent such a long period watching it, thinking there's got to be something juicy that we can connect a whole raft of ex-Scientologists who are looking back on the crazy cult that they used to be a part of and go, excellent, you've severed ties because you've seen through the nonsense. You just haven't seen far enough. There's more nonsense. What you thought you escaped into, actually you jumped out of a frying pan and into a fire. The fire of heliocentrism. Oh, well, everyone accepts that, so I'm quite happy, so long as the cult's bigger. Well, like I say, there's not a great deal that I've found that's that useful. Other than it parallels heliocentrism, it's just an offshoot.
The books that they have, or what people say about it.
I really think you should buy a book about this. John. The book will help you understand.
I've about talked myself into it. I've just about talked myself into it now, yeah.
But the book you buy won't tell you the great word of Xenu. Nor will it tell you about how many thetans you've got inside you. It won't tell you any of that. Nothing on the shelf. You know, you'll acquire these pieces of information through tutelage and training and, you know, courses. They love selling courses.
Right, but in the same way, you know, like when you look up flat Earth and you hear this is what flat earthers believe, and then you know it's not the same with us because we talk to ballers all the time, but at a cursory glance, it would be easy to just straw man them, you know, and that's why I was saying, is there anybody who is not opposed to them that you can talk to? You know what I mean?
The only people I'd be able to name is that Aaron guy, or Aaron, or Aaron, from growing up in Scientology. He's a fellow YouTuber. But what am I going to talk to him about? I mean, from what I can glean, there's a fair few flat earthers in his chat anyway. But I think that's probably the case in a lot of shows. But because it seems to be directly connected to heliocentrism as a religion, there are flat earthers in there who are intrigued with the ex-religion of Scientology because it's akin to their ex-religion of heliocentrism, I suspect. Same as me. So there's people who will drop into the chat in various Scientology or ex-Scientologists live streams about Flat Earth. And I don't get banned, which is always a good sign when I'm chatting in there. But what am I hoping to achieve if I talk to Aaron? I don't actually know how he says his name properly. He keeps referring to himself like that comedy Saturday Night Live sketch where they got the teacher who keeps getting everyone's name wrong. Aaron, when he's reading it off the register.
No, that's a commercial. That's not Saturday Night Live.
Whatever.
That's who's that? I forgot who it is. Cat and Peel or something.
Something like that.
What I mean, basically, all I'm asking is there a public declaration of what they believe that comports with what people who have left the church say that's what they believe. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you can get.
Like, if that's
Okay, I
what
see
they
what you're saying
believe,
now.
then that's what they
Can you
believe,
get
you know
hold
what I mean?
of? Can you get hold of leaked OT3 and OT4 literature? Yeah, you can. Does it comport with what South Park said? Yes, it does. That was the first thing I asked, actually. That was the first thing I was intrigued about. How accurate is my surface level puke understanding of this religion? How accurate is my surface level puke? And when you actually dig into what you can easily find if you look, actually, John, the South Park rendition, they did a 30-second summary at the end of that episode that was absolutely spot on. I kid you not. The South Park summary was perfect.
Yeah.
Couldn't have summarized it better.
Right. Okay. I'm losing interest now. If that is the case, I was just. I mean, a leaked document ain't exactly the same, but if there is validity to the leaked document and actually came from the church, because the fact that nobody is saying what they believe at the higher levels, that's kind of you'd think they could just deny that claim or state what they believe.
No, they have a limited amount of people privileged to the information that don't want it being common knowledge, are upset that it is common knowledge. In the past, before South Park, they've tried to sue people who have leaked the same information onto a much more fledgling internet, for example. But no, they absolutely don't want it to be common knowledge. And if you were to quiz any lower level Scientologist, you'd get a very different interpretation of what Scientology represents and what it achieves.
Yeah, I think I'm about there where I can accept that that's because, like I said, with them not stating what they believe, I hate to go on inference, solely on inference. If they're, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like I might be straw manning them with what they believe, just taking hearsay from what other people that don't like them say they believe. Because we deal with that all the time, don't we?
Right.
Well, how does this work on your flat earth? I never made a claim about that. What are you talking about, crazy?
Rumor has it that if you contribute to the final experiment, become one of the final contestants, Tom Cruise will meet you there and tell you the whole details.
Right.
What is the final experiment? I've heard people say that. What is that?
Looking for a 24-hour sun in
Antarctica.
Antarctica. Right, I am going to
If there's a 24-hour sun in Antarctica, then we live on a sphere.
According to the final experiment. With that, I'm going to say, if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow.
It's not back yet. You know what the sad thing is? Look at all the people that are there. Are you kidding me? Your Scheisses, your Germans, or whoever else is there. That tells you how much they don't know.
Yeah. Well, this is from what I understand about the final experiment now is that if the elevation angle of the sun stays above the horizon for 24 hours, the Earth is a sphere. And that's right. Is that what their
Yep.
claim is? An experiment?
Yes.
Well, just to kill that real quick, the elevation angle of the sun is taken with respect to a flat Earth. That is not an experiment. You do not have a viable independent variable that you can manipulate. And your phenomenon is dependent upon Earth being flat. So, what exactly do they think they're going to prove about Earth being a sphere with this?
These are all missing it. They phrased it in a way to take a shot at QE and flat Earth debate. They know damn well it's not an experiment. They phrased it that way deliberately.
Maybe. I mean, still, it puts them in another category of evidence that they didn't have to put on themselves. But if they are going to, we're going to hold them to it.
Yeah, you say experiment. I say, what's the naturally observed phenomena?
Yeah, you go through the steps. That way you can, validate it
Let's
for
go
yourself
through it.
with the.
What's the naturally
Yeah.
observed phenomenon then? Sun standing still in the sky?
The angle not changing proves what? You know what I mean? Like, it's
Yeah, but you guys, the problem is not what you go and see. That's not the problem. The problem is the flat earther who shows up and entertains the idea. That's the problem. Do you see? The experiment is
Exactly.
not
I
about
agree.
the sun. It's about the stupid flat earther who shows up. That's what it's about.
I know. That's why I said that. I don't think
Let
you
me
were
tell
in
you why
here when
the
I said that.
Yeah, and one of the guys that before that's Ben, right? I can't remember who interviewed him, but he was in Antarctica for like 18 months,
Yeah, me.
and he said he saw the sun one time.
Yeah, you're talking about Robert Shortman. I interviewed him.
Dude.
I think you're
Yeah, what was the guy's name again?
Robert Shortman.
Yeah, so let's say if he was in that period of time and only saw the sun once, that was able to confirm it was the sun, and if you go down there for one day, right, you might not see anything. But the fact that you went there means that you accept the proposition that seeing the sun down there is going to somehow arbitrate the proposition whether the earth is flat. So if you're a flat earther and you go down there and see nothing, you're still a schmuck.
Yeah, they failed the moment they called it an experiment. Because the first thing we did was go, what's your independent variable? What's the phenomena you're studying? And then it immediately failed. You're like, this is a complete joke.
I know the phenomena they're studying. If you're ready. I already said it. It's how stupid flat earthers are. That's the phenomenon.
Right.
Oh, I didn't hear that. That's a good one. I didn't hear you say that. Maybe because I was talking.
Let me beg the question in false dichotomy with you. Science, you say? I'm all for that.
Hold on, let me try to put it through the scientific method. If the elevation angle of the sun stays above the horizon for 24 hours, that's your phenomenon. The elevation angle of the sun stays above the horizon for 24 hours.
That sounds legit.
Well, I would go just to meet Tom Cruise.
Why? Tom Cruise going to Antarctica?
Well, to go to Antarctica would be cool, but I'm a really big fan. I really like his movies a lot.
Oh, it's like that, is it? I'd go to meet Angelina Jolie. I mean, she's not going or anything, but I really like her movies.
Oh, I thought somebody said you get to meet Tom Cruise if you go to Antarctica and do the experiment.
No, if you buy a lot of Scientology books, improve yourself, and then after many years and rising up through the ranks, and a lot of self-assessment and a lot of EKG tests or whatever they call them, you might rise and find out about Thetans and Xenu, and you'd be privileged to know that stuff.
So no meeting Tom Cruise then? Well, that's no good.
No.
The moral of that story is it doesn't matter what you're promised, because when you arrive, the circumstances will be such that whatever happens will be excused. So, for example, Tom Cruise couldn't make it. The 24-hour sun, quote unquote, couldn't make it today. Get it?
Yep, that's but still you're an idiot for showing up, right? So it's they're winning either way. You know what I mean?
It's worse than that. It's a contest. So you begin with 25 Globers and 25 Flat Earthers, and the 25 Flat Earthers have to jump through a series of hoops to prove who they are, what they are, and why they should go. So the entire time leading up to this, it's going to be a bunch of Flat Earthers in a pyramid of stupidity struggling over each other to reach the top to be the gold standard flag bearer to affirm the consequent with pride.
Oh my God, that's even better. You're right. Oh my God, that is, yes. Oh, can we watch this on TV or YouTube or something? This will be at least funny to
Hold on,
watch, I guess.
Do we know that flat earthers have actually bought into this? I know that they're appearing, so am I, in their videos. Doesn't mean anything. Has anybody actually said to whoever, are you buying into this? Because if so, if there are flat
Or
earthers,
someone said Jaron was.
well, then we need to ask Jaron if he understands the basic principle of the experiment, then, don't we? It's science.
I'll tell you how I came across it. I came across it from DM campaigns. So the Globers are latching onto this and going to people privately to try to get them to basically start talking about it and, affirming the consequent along with them, right? And so the average rank and file Glober can use this as a conversational piece to befuddle the flat earther in the background, and then, take that to the public later and be like, oh, all these stupid flat earthers, right? Rather than they arrive at someone's DMs and what they get back is, dude, this doesn't prove anything. It's affirming the consequent at best and specious reasoning at worst. Get out of my DMs. But just like, mask marketing, eventually you're going to get some biters, right?
Well, if we do and people do bite, we'll
I mean,
start
the
quizzing
best
them.
thing you could,
We'll start quizzing them. So, what is exactly the experiment's based on? What's the hypothesis? Pray tell. You don't know, but yet you're going down there. Well, doesn't that make you look really stupid? Really know why you're going down there. It would be helpful if you knew what science was as they're claiming it.
yeah, well, the thing I would like to do is get one and ask him about what they believe is the phenomenon, right? Because they're going to say the 24-hour sun. In their explanation, they're going to say that the elevation angle of the sun stays above the horizon for 24 hours. It's the only way that they can make it. It's the only way it comports with the celestial sphere model. That is how the argument has to be made. If we could get them to admit to that, then it's all, eating popcorn and laughing after that, right?
Yeah. I mean, we can use their example to prove a flat Earth is what you're saying. True with every example ever. But, if this little runaway mine train ends up humiliating a load of flat earthers because they don't know what an experiment is, so be it. we tried, right? I personally have reached out to all of the big name flat earthers. So if any of the big name flat earthers get into this wrangle dangle, I'll be the first saying, a little conversation we had about what science was. This is claimed to be an experiment. Now let's see which way this is going to go. Do you think you're going to go down there proving a flat earth with this garbage by looking at ice walls and affirming your religious bias in a flat earth? Or do you think it'll affirm the consequent, with flat earth measurements being held in false dichotomy against flat earth measurements that are claimed to prove a sphere? Or do you think they'll uphold a quasi-experiment and use the hypothesis as the explanation? Oh, I'm pretty sure it'll be the latter. And when they dupe all these people that have had me on one side with them saying this is how science works, and they've gone, no, you don't understand what science is, you're here to deceive everyone. You'll be like, all right, well, would have been helpful if you knew what an experiment was, past tense.
Remember the other day I said I seen a marked rise in the channels that I purview of people that have been in the game for the majority of the decade, right? That I haven't even heard from in years. And they're showing up into places that I frequent and they want to talk about the sky all of a sudden. It's like, dude, weren't you in the game 7 years ago when we disconnected the sky from the ground, as it logically must be? They're like, oh, no, the sky, bro. So, I mean, I don't know if the final experiment is getting them or something else, but there's definitely a rising sentiment in the places that I frequent.
Well, of course, the biggest names in this subject matter are punting ether.
You remember when I called you out for just saying that about Witz's being having claims about the stars because you were taking a stab at him because he hadn't said it, and then they're gonna call him a cosmologist on the next video we watch of him?
No, you're wrong. They called him an ether cosmetologist.
Yeah, okay, yeah, my bad. Yeah, the cosmetologist. Right.
Yeah, so he's an ether skin specialist, according to the title they ascribed him.
Yeah, but in that video where he was punting ether, the way he would address them with claims about the sky and how he addressed us, it seems a lot different, doesn't it?
Yeah, very.
That don't seem very honest.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head on the last Before One live show or whichever, with our concern, our desire for people to do well in terms of who we focus on our own side. In other words, Whitsit, whether we like it or not, is an ambassador for this subject. So we want him to do well, right? We want him to have good arguments. We want him to succeed and pummel people.
Yes, I would like for my understanding to be shared correctly if it's going to be, shared with the world.
Yeah.
I certainly don't want to be made fun of by what's that? The fat dude from InfoWars. I can't think of his name.
Alex Jones.
My daddy
Alex
and I, we
Jones.
looked at the stars
Yeah.
through a telescope.
Yeah, I don't want to be made fun of by Alex Jones. I mean, because he's pretty much like, what what everybody else makes fun of. So it's like you're at that point, you're the joke of the joke.
He's a
I
benchmark.
don't want to be in that.
He is conspiratard benchmark. That's what he represents. They want us. That is the depiction of us, right? They want us. I'm not talking about flat earthers in general, obviously, because most of them do a good job of doing this for themselves. But they want us, literally us, to be perceived as Alex Jones. So in terms of their questioning of Mark, well, you're a conspiracy guy, right? They want all of us to be conspiracy guys and gals so that they can focus on that. Because everyone knows what a conspiratard is, and you're one of them, right?
Yeah, which is completely off topic. You know, like we're not discussing whether people have lied about it. We're discussing what it is. Let's figure out what it is first, and then we can maybe discuss that after. You know?
How you doing, gentlemen?
Hey, D.
I have a question real quick. WTF of what Terence Howard was saying in that video, Neil, has to do with the surface or the topography of the plane. What does a so-called mineral construct have to do with the with a surface level or sea level? I mean, is it as brilliant to many may think it is? The big terms he used. He seems to be very studious, very a good reader. He's even the author of a book breaking down concepts and philosophical, conceptual theories, yada yada yada. But what does that got to do when he tried to interject because they thought the Earth was flat? I don't get it. What that got to do with that? I mean, I'm pretty sure y'all watched that video. I just watched it. Thanks, Neil, for sharing it. But I don't understand what that has to do with the surface that we live on or sea level. I don't care if every single mineral or so-called molecular portion of the water is a particular shape or form. What that got to do with celestial navigation? What has to do with the base of the base bottom of the angle? What has to do? I don't get it. So I don't even know how that is gonna, but
Well, it's
Joe Rogan
fallacious.
would have
All
that.
that.
Yeah, very fallacious. And Joe
It's
Rogan, of
fallacious
course, he
because
would have.
the reason it's fallacious is because it's assuming what's true of the parts is true of the whole. I can't remember if that's composition. I have to get Nathan to say one so I can say the other. But it's it's either composition or division fallacy.
I think it's the fallacy. It's a composition fallacy when you take part of
Exactly
the whole as part of one part of a statement, like, well, we make observations, therefore it's science. So you're taking, well, you observe natural phenomena, so you've got the word observation in it. So that would be a composition fallacy. Whereas when it's the other way around, so you take one section, take the whole and say it's true of only part. So we've got
right. So
if everything in the world is made of molecules, then everything in the world is natural because it's all made of molecules. I think that's a fallacy of division.
Right.
Or we're all one big molecule.
No, it's just when you're trying to make something synthetic, man-made. Well, everything's made of atoms, right? Yeah, and atoms are natural, aren't they? Yeah. Well, therefore, this man-made thing is natural. It's made of atoms. That would be a fallacy of division. Whereas when you say, I've got one part of science, in this case observation, and therefore, when I observe something, I can call it science. Well, no. In reality, you need many more parts to make it the whole, which would be called science, and you're taking one part of it. Well, that's a composition fallacy. Unless I've gotten the wrong way around. Maybe I have, maybe I haven't. I don't know. I always get mixed up.
If that's true, then it's a composition fallacy because they're saying because of these intramolecular bonds creating a raindrop. Therefore, the entirety of the ocean is this raindrop.
Right. And
You know,
the thing about what I'm saying too, I want to add. Like, I got to go back to work. But what you're saying, the refraction, what you're saying, Nathan, I'm pretty sure what a lot of guys on the panel can say. There's never someone as a guest to bring up these things because Joe Rogan doesn't know any better. He these people that he invite apparently more knowledgeable about the rhetoric they speak, and he's just here to either expand on it because he might have read an insert on it or something like that. But there's never anybody on there to do exactly what y'all are doing in real time, live time, so that people can see it when they watch this video previously recorded or live, can hear those points y'all are making. And that's how the convoluted feast of nonsense perpetuates. And I got to go. I love you guys. Talk to
Share
you
the
later.
video.
But yeah,
Share it and we'll cover it tomorrow.
no doubt. All right. Later.
Cool. With that, I'm going to say another huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G Plus panels for making today's after show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams. Hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, joining as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.